The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Gallo, and I'm the Manager of Career Services here at the CUNY School of Professional Studies. Welcome to our first Learn Over Lunch webinar of the fall 2015 semester. We're thrilled that all of you are joining us today to discuss gearing up for graduate school. Before we begin with our presentation, if those of you who are attending could just take a minute and let us know that you can hear us clearly. You can type into the chat field on your control panel. Just let us know that you can hear us clearly. Today's webinar will be featuring a number of representatives across the School of Professional Studies. You'll hear from my colleague Christopher Lydon in Student Services. You'll hear from Kelsey Richardson with Career Services. And you'll hear from Jan Sartoretto, Ashley Hoyt, and Agrona Selimai from the Academic Advisement Team. Today's presentation Okay, bear with us, folks. Seems we may be having some audio concerns. Testing. Good afternoon, anyone. Can you please let us know, verify that you can hear me speaking using the chat field? Okay, everyone, apologies for the brief pause before we began. It seems that some of our attendees were having concerns hearing the audio. So it seems like things are up and running for now, so that's a good thing. Without any further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. Today's presentation, my colleague Christopher Lydon will cover some early considerations about graduate school. My colleague Jan Sartoretto from Academic Advisement will go over some early considerations about graduate school. Christopher will cover research and the different kinds of preparation you should do early on in this process. Ashley Hoyt will discuss financing your education. Kelsey Richardson will go over application, the process of which, and documents. My colleague Agrona Selimai from Academic Advising will talk about the process and what you should do after you've been accepted. And then at the end of our webinar, we will go through and answer questions. So throughout the presentation, if you come up with a question, please feel free to send it to us. Our colleague Anthony Sweeney from Student Services is joining us today, manning the control panel, and he'll be addressing your questions and passing them on to us at the end. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get things started. Christopher Lydon.
Hi, Shannon. And hello, everyone in webinar land. So we're starting today with a poll. so we can get an idea of where our audience is in terms of the motivation. So you'll see in your screen the poll question, what's the most important reason you're considering graduate school? So there are a few possible answers. One is career transition. That's if you're thinking of changing careers, starting something new. Another is professional growth. That refers to advancing in the same career, current career, gaining new expertise or new credential. Pursuing intellectual passions or academic interests. That's pretty self-explanatory. Fulfilling a personal goal, perhaps, also wide open. And if none of those fit, you can check other. So we'll just take a couple minutes as the results come in. And again, it's helpful for us to know what's on your minds as you're thinking about graduate school, and it's also perhaps helpful for you to think that through, as I'm sure you probably have already, before you go into this very long and detailed process of preparing for the application and graduate school itself. Are we getting results out there? Yeah. Okay, I see some of you are posting. By the way, as Shannon said, while we're doing this and at each stage of the presentation today, please feel free to post questions for us, which we'll get to during the last 15 minutes or so of the webinar. And you can do that at any time. All right, a couple more minutes to finish that, or we, okay. Let's move this along. Okay, here are the results. About half of you cite professional growth as the main motivating force in your decision to consider a graduate school program. And all the other choices, career transition, intellectual passion or academic interest, and personal goal are at even the remaining sixth-ish. So yeah, thanks for participating in that, and we'll move on to the next section, and I'll talk to you in a minute. Back to you, Shannon.
Thank you, Christopher. We'll hear a little bit more from him in a bit. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to my colleague, Jan Sartoretto, and she'll go over some of the sort of early considerations when you're starting to think about graduate and professional school. Jan?
Okay, hello everyone. So you're considering applying to graduate school. Good for you. Okay, but before embarking on such an important decision, there are questions that need to be asked. Our first consideration is, what is the mission and scope of the program? It is important to do research on the top schools that focus and excel in the programs and specializations you are interested in. For example, you're considering an MSW. Maybe you want a clinical focus or counseling track. Definitely explore those schools that excel or have offer those different tracks that you're interested in and focus. Be very specific in what you're looking for in a master's program. By being clear on what you're looking for in a program, you can therefore target higher education institutions that have programs that will provide the best experience for you. Some examples of a variety of programs are online master's programs, accelerated programs. Some master's programs require you to attend full-time, and other programs you can attend part-time. So you have to see what will suit what you're pursuing and the time and commitment to that. Know that you may have an external placement in some programs, like a clinical or field work, and that can be 3 days out of your week. So how will you accommodate that if you work full-time? You may also be interested in law and MSW. There are also dual programs which can accommodate both degrees. Know that that will add an extra year onto your master's program. Another consideration is many master's programs have prerequisites. It is cost and time efficient to take the courses in your undergraduate degree. If you do not, you might delay your graduation application by either adding another semester to fill in the gap or take courses as a non-matriculated course, and that can be an out-of-pocket expense. So maybe you can fit those prerequisites into your general electives in the undergraduate program or another area. You can get more information on the mission and scope of programs you're considering on the school website. It is also recommended to meet with an academic advisor for the program you're considering to help you identify if this is the right school for you. When considering a specific program, know the curriculum. Does the program require fieldwork, practicum, clinical, thesis, or exams? If a fieldwork is required, then of course you would have to have an external placement. How will you accommodate that if you work full-time? Again, as I previously mentioned, that can be 3-4 days that you have to be in your external placement. So, hopefully if you have a flexible schedule or you work part-time, you can accommodate this. But these are considerations when you apply. The same for a clinical as part of the curriculum. Some master's programs require a thesis. If research and writing is not a strong skill, there are non-thesis programs which may be a better choice. If you're considering a PhD program, a thesis on the master's level may be helpful for preparing you for a PhD program. As a practicum, if you're getting a master's in education, you may have a situation where you need a part-time student teaching placement. So these are all, areas to explore and see what works best for you. Now, many master's degree programs require that you submit your scores from a particular entrance exam. These exams may test your general knowledge, like the GRE, or they may be subject-specific, LSAT for law students, GMAT for business students. There are preparatory tutoring organizations which offer tutoring for these programs. Anticipate studying and prep testing. Preparing for the exam is an investment of time and finances. My colleague Ashley will get into the financial commitment of these exams later in our presentation. Now, a very important area to explore is the employment outlook for the field of study. To define whether a master's is a good decision for you professionally, if that is your intention, research the employment outlook for your field. Research the job growth rate of the industry you're interested in, entry-level requirements and salaries, and of course credentials required for the job. Possibly a graduate certification might be a better option and less time and financial commitment. We have provided a link to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which has extensive information on various industries. That will also be a handout for you at the end of our presentation. So next we will look at how will you pay for graduate school. This is a very important question because it can be a huge financial investment, as you are probably aware of at this point. If you work for a government or higher education institution, a tuition waiver is most likely offered. Check with your HR department to see if you have tuition reimbursement. My colleague Ashley, again, will provide more information on the financial aspect of applying to graduate school and different funds that are out there. Now, last but not least, how will you set realistic goals? We all have our dream school. But know that if you do not get into your dream school, do you have backup? Three or four backup schools. This is very important because, of course, we want to get into the best school for us, but then, of course, you need that backup in case it doesn't work out for you. It is important to understand that graduate school requires more writing and research, more likely than you have had in an undergraduate program. A flexible work schedule or part-time work is ideal, but if you work full-time, does your supervisor support your decision to go to graduate school? How about your spouse, your family? Graduate school is a demanding endeavor. Support from work and family will certainly help you through the tough times. Is it possible to change your work to part-time to accommodate attending full-time? And as mentioned earlier, if you have a clinical or field work placement or a teacher practicum, how will you accommodate this? If you decide to apply, know that the earlier you start the application process, the better. we have provided a graduation school application timeline. It is best to think 7 months ahead of how starting your process. This will be a handout also, but know that you need to accommodate things that happen. Maybe, you know, your transcripts are delayed, or you have a very busy person who's writing you a recommendation, and that can stall the process, or you need extra tutoring. This 7 month will allow you, and maybe if you have even more than that, which is actually ideal, that will help those external extenuating circumstances that most likely will happen. And last but not least, I wish you all the best of luck in what I hope will be a rewarding experience for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Shannon.
I think hopefully we've succeeded in getting all of our attendees thinking about some of the earliest considerations to make, and sort of figuring out those early questions to ask yourself. Now we'll turn things back over to Christopher Lydon, and he's going to discuss research involved in this process. Christopher?
Okay, so I'm picking up where Jan just left off. If you want to bring your family in at an early stage in your decision-making process, and also your employers. So you may not think of this as research, but really it is, because an advanced degree can significantly improve your career prospects and boost your overall life potential, but graduate school involves quite a substantial investment of time and money and effort, so it's crucial to have the support of your nearest and dearest. And if you have children, then you may have to consider how to arrange for additional childcare. And, you know, these are all things you need to start thinking and talking about. Your employer is another key part of the planning process. Hopefully, your employer will see the value in furthering your education and investing in your professional development. The extent to which you are granted some flexibility to adjust your work schedule may determine the course of studies you pursue, the course load you can carry, and whether you will attend classes face-to-face or online. Find out if your employer offers any financial support for education. If you're not going to receive sufficient cooperation or support from your boss or the company as a whole, it may be worthwhile postponing graduate school until you're in a better professional situation, or even looking into the possibility of becoming a full-time student instead, if you can swing that. So next, please be sure to talk to Career Services, Shannon and Kelsey, who can help you work through some of the many decisions involved in the graduate school application process. Student Services can help too, that's me, particularly with things like tightening up application essays. So don't be a stranger. You'll also want to do things on the side of your target school. Attend their information sessions, whether it's face-to-face or online. And that way you can learn more about the programs you're considering, as well as asking questions. Ask lots of questions. Next, read up on the faculty and their work. You'll want to find out as much as you can about the faculty and know whether the courses are taught by full-time professors, adjunct instructors who may be also full-time practitioners, or a mix of the two. School websites usually feature biographies and bibliographies of faculty members, so you can get an idea of their work that way. Academic work is especially important to consider if you're thinking about a PhD program, where choosing the right dissertation director is incredibly important. Okay, next, visit the campus and explore the resources there. You'll get a much better idea of what a place is like if you make time to visit and talk to students, faculty, and staff members. Visiting and exploring also includes spending some time on the university website to see what student services are on offer there. And finally, contact some alumni. Use your network to find them. LinkedIn's a good tool. You can also contact the school you're considering to see if they can put you in touch with alumni. You can learn a lot by talking to them. I think that's it for me, so I throw it back to Shannon. And remember, you can always post questions.
Yes, thank you, Christopher. That's a great reminder. As we're speaking with you today, feel free to send us your questions. Some of them may be covered later in our presentation and others may not, so we'll certainly be happy to address them at the end of our presentation. So now we're going to switch gears just a little bit, and I'm going to turn things over to another member of our academic advisement team, Ashley Hoyt, and she's going to go over finance for your graduate or professional school education. Take it away, Ashley.
Thank you, Shannon. Understanding the expense and potential funding options for graduate education is going to play an important role in your graduate school decision. So, what are some possible financial expenses you may encounter? Let's begin with test preparation and entrance examinations. The cost of private test preparation and tutoring can quickly deplete your bank account. Prospective graduate students should plan their own study routine and utilize free review material found online. Setting goals and staying organized with test preparation will help you avoid needing to retake these examinations, thus saving you additional time and money. The cost of each examination can be found on each respective entrance examination website. The next area I'd like to address are the application fees. Graduate school application fees, on average, are more costly than undergraduate application fees. Narrowing down the number of schools you will be applying to will save you money. It is advised that you check with each school for possible application fee and commitment deposit waivers, which I'll explain a bit later. For example, CUNY offers these waivers to our military and veteran student populations. Once you've applied, be sure to request a transcript from each school that you attended for each application that you submit. Schools will want a complete academic history in order to gain a full picture of the prospective student. If you haven't already done so, you should request a transcript from each school that you attended to keep for your own records. So now that you're admitted, your commute to campus will be an expense worth considering. There will be some of you who decide to attend an online program, whereas others may decide to relocate across the globe to attend the school of your dreams, and quite possibly with your family in tow. Be sure to plan for the travel expenses and time off from work if necessary. Whether you are moving into campus housing or closer to campus for a shorter commute, prospective graduate students should consider all of their options to keep this particular expense low and your wallet full. Once you've been accepted into graduate school and you have accepted the offer of admission, you'll be required to submit what's called a commitment deposit. This deposit is non-refundable and secures your enrollment at the college. It also allows the college to schedule you for orientation and registration. So now that we've covered some of the expenses, the next step is to determine how will you finance your education or pay for tuition. For this section, my focus is on master's levels programs, since doctoral level education generally includes full or partial funding, along with stipends when a student is admitted to the program. The free application for federal student aid is something you are probably familiar with from your undergraduate studies, so it is imperative that you fill out this application in order to determine your eligibility for various federal loans. Prospective graduate students need to understand that grant funding is not as robust at the graduate level as it is at the undergraduate level. Be sure to visit studentaid.gov for more information on federal student aid and the FAFSA application process. Once you've filled out the application for the applicable aid year, the financial aid office at the schools you wish to attend will be able to assist you with more detailed information regarding your aid eligibility and any state-specific financial aid opportunities. Your eligibility will be determined by your financial need, your cost of attendance, your status as a full-time or part-time student, among other factors. Once you've received admissions decisions from all of the schools that you apply to, you'll want to compare your financial aid award packages, especially if you've been accepted to multiple schools. We will provide you with a great resource to assist you with this comparison after this presentation. A great way to pay for your tuition and refill your wallet from paying those early application expenses is in the form of scholarships. A great scholarship search engine is Career One Stop. This site is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment, and Training Administration. We will be sending you this link after our presentation. You should also check your public library and the schools that you're applying to in order to determine your eligibility for internal scholarships. Community, professional, religious, and ethnicity-based organizations may also provide scholarship opportunities. Last but not least, as Jayanne mentioned earlier, if you haven't already done so, check with your employer to see if the company offers tuition waivers or reimbursements, as well as eligibility requirements and course credit restrictions. If you are a new employee, you may have to wait a period of time in order to become eligible. This may impact when you decide to apply to a program or whether or not you defer your admission to a later semester.
Thank you, Ashley. A lot of really important and sometimes complex information that Ashley has shared with us. A resource that might be useful to all of you regarding financial aid would be the financial aid office here at SPS. They certainly would be able to hopefully answer individual questions that you may have about financial aid and expenses and sort of financing your education. The email address for that office is financialaid@sps.cuny.edu. Now moving ahead through our presentation, my colleague Kelsey Richardson is in the hot seat now to discuss with you the application process and the documents that most likely would be included in the process of applying to graduate school. Take it away, Kelsey.
Thank you, Shannon. Hello, everyone. I am going to discuss with you, as Shannon just mentioned, the application, the actual physical application and the documents that you'll need to support your application. It is a very, very important part of the process because remember that your application represents your qualifications and gives the admissions committee the picture of what you would bring to their graduate program. So it's really important that you very carefully go about this process of preparing your documents. So first I'm going to discuss the resume CV. So here's a sample of a resume here, and it's really important to keep many things in mind when it comes to the resume, but make sure that it's very clear and professional looking in terms of its format, and that you use things like bold and italics and bullet points so that, when the admissions committee is going through your materials, it's presented in the best way. You'll see that in this sample, which you'll be sent afterwards, of course, after this presentation, you'll see that for the bullet points, action verbs are leading off the bullet points to describe, work experiences in the most powerful way. You want to be concise and just make sure that you keep the most relevant information on your resume. So the other thing to keep in mind is that you need to proof it very, very carefully. And it's really hard to do that yourself. Of course, proof it a few times yourself, but then the next step is to come to Career Services and have Shannon or I look it over for you, or have a colleague look it over, but make sure that you have another set of eyes look it over, because the last thing you want is to have any errors on your resume. So next I want to discuss the statement of purpose, the personal statement. This is often a part of the application that applicants dread because, it involves writing, and it's not just writing, but writing about yourself and your background. But it is really important to make sure that you introduce yourself and that you summarize your academic and professional background. Make sure that you read the instructions really carefully, because on some applications they'll have specific questions that they want you to focus on for your statement of purpose. For others it's more open-ended and they just want you to discuss your background in a concise way that really discusses your interests and goals and how their particular graduate program would assist you in achieving them. So make sure that you keep that in mind. And you can also, as Christopher Lydon had mentioned, contact Student Services, contact Career Services for assistance, with this part of the process as well. So the application form itself, now, almost all applications are online now at this point, which is really makes it faster and easier. But sometimes we get a little relaxed with online, forms that we're filling out because we're so used to it and practically everything's done that way. But you have to really take your time with this and fill it out completely, proof it very, very carefully, and make sure that you're including everything that's asked for. Now, for letters of recommendation, you want to make sure that you keep, the whole timeline in mind when it comes to this whole application process. So give your recommenders plenty of time to meet the deadlines that your recommendations are due for each of your applications. Make sure you choose your recommenders well. If you're currently working, it's usually a good idea to have a combination of academic recommenders and workplace recommenders so that you, have a supervisor or a colleague be one, and then some of your professors from your undergraduate work, but only people who can speak very strongly about your qualifications. And just make sure, same thing with character references. Usually this is the list of references, and we also have a sample provided that's going to be sent to you afterwards. But this is usually name and contact information, and make sure that you choose your references carefully as well, and get their permission first. You don't want to just think, oh, well, I know that professor gave me A's and, I did well in that class, so I'm just going to add them to my list. You need to make sure that you get permission and that you make sure that you give them enough information about where you're applying, why you're applying, so that they can really, speak to your qualifications well if they should get a call from the admissions committee. Now, the interview. Some graduate applications have interviewing as part of the process and some do not, but if interviewing is part of the process, it's really important that you make sure that you prepare very well. Now, you should prepare as carefully as you would for a job interview, meaning that you make sure that you do a lot of research on the school that you're interviewing at. Make sure that you practice answering questions. Make sure that, if you can, if you have the time to seek assistance, again, you can contact Career Services and we can help you prepare for the interview. But just, make sure that even if you're in a situation where part of your interviewing process is to meet with some of the current students on a particular campus that you're applying to, make sure that if it seems like it's a relaxed situation because, you're having a little lunch and you're talking with these students, remember it's still an interview and that you still need to be putting forth your most professional self. So just keep that in mind in your interviewing process. And also remember, too, that if you've been invited for an interview, that's a positive sign, and you should, be happy about that, that's one more step closer to acceptance into that particular school's program.
Thank you, Kelsey. Obviously, a lot goes into the application process for graduate and professional school. Certainly a lot of work goes into earning the degree once you've been accepted and admitted. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to my other colleague from Academic Advisement, Agrona Selimai, and she will talk with you about the acceptance and everything that goes into that process after you've been accepted. Agrona?
Thanks, Shannon. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Agrona Selimai, another academic advisor here at SPS, and I'm going to be talking to you about the steps you take once you hear a response from the graduate programs that you have applied to. First, let's begin by discussing, of course, the good news, which is getting accepted. Once you receive a letter of acceptance from a graduate program, the first thing you should do is enjoy the moment. You have worked long and hard to obtain a range of necessary experiences, including a high GPA, research, practical experiences, good relationships with your faculty, and you have successfully navigated through the whole application process, which after hearing from all of my colleagues, you can see is no easy feat, so congrats on all of that. Also, after spending so much time thinking about the future, you need to remember to just live in the moment and be proud of yourself. You should do something to celebrate yourself, but of course, remember to thank all of the people that helped you during the application process. It is important to send a thank you note, message, or card to the professors that wrote you the letters of recommendation. Then, if you also did have to interview for the program, you should reach out to the members on that committee and send them thank you letters as well. Also think about thanking your family, friends, and other administrators that help provide any support along the way. Next, you need to make sure that you read all admitted student information that you receive from the graduate program. This is an important step because you want to make sure that you know exactly what you are accepting. Carefully review all paperwork and consider the offer before accepting or declining. You will get information about your deadline to respond to the school, new student orientation, registration, academic advising, student life, and so on. You should mark your calendars with all of these important dates and see if the school has an academic calendar posted on their website, and make sure to save that as well. That's very useful. If you have multiple programs that have accepted you, then this is when you really have some thinking to do. Do not just accept the first offer that you receive, unless of course it's the one that you really want. This is the moment when you need to sit down and map out all of the pros and cons of each school. Figure out all of your options and see what each school's best practices are. You need to figure out how you want to learn. Do you want to go to a busy campus, or a more private setting, or maybe even attend graduate school online? Funding, academics, reputation, and your gut intuition all will play a part in your decision. At this point, it is also good to talk to people that know you and that you trust so that you can get their opinions and their fresh perspective on things. Once you choose the program that you want to definitely attend, send them an email letting them know that you accept their offer and plan to attend the new student orientation. At the new student orientation, you would get a chance to meet your fellow classmates and begin to form relationships with them. At this point, you could also think about ways to get involved with the program and the school itself. Even though this would be the beginning of your start with the program, you should always try to think of the future and plan that way. Now, if you receive notification that you have been placed on a wait list, do not get discouraged. This does not mean that you are accepted to the program, however, it does not mean that you are rejected either. It really means that you're kind of in a limbo and you just need to keep waiting for the program's final decision. When being placed on a wait list, you have to understand that you did catch the committee's eye and there might be potential there, but the program probably received hundreds of applications and only have a limited amount of slots to fill. Graduate programs know that not all students they offer acceptance to will take them up on their offer, and that is when they give the students on the wait list a chance. If you are placed on a wait list at one school and get accepted elsewhere, please make sure to let the program that waitlisted you know so that they can take you off and you can give a chance to some other student. Also, if you are placed on a wait list by the school that you really want, then you can keep waiting for them to make a decision. If at the end they reject you due to already filling up all their slots, you can always give it a shot again the next semester. But you have to really be willing to take that chance with the school again. This is the moment when we kind of talk about the bad news, getting rejected from a program. If you are denied admissions to a program, it is important to really see this as a learning experience. Almost every grad school applicant will receive at least one rejection. While it won't be fun, it's not quite the end. Call your contact professors in the department and politely express your regret at not being admitted. Ask them if they can point out where your application was weak or give you some suggestions on how you can strengthen your candidacy for the future. This will help you when you choose to reapply for the following year. If you really think graduate school is for you and you do plan to apply again, learn from this experience and improve your credentials for the next time. Once all the decision stuff is out of the way and you have attended the new student orientation, the next step is to register for classes and map out your schedule for the semester. When registering, you have to be honest with yourself and with how much time you can devote to your courses. Be mindful of your current work schedule and all of your other outside responsibilities. If you work full-time, then part-time status would be best for you. But if you have cleared your schedule just for graduate school, then maybe you can handle a full-time load. When making decisions on which classes to take and what would be recommended, you should definitely speak with an academic advisor. Find out if your program has different advisors or if there is only one contact person. Set up an appointment to meet with them and let them know about your life and your goals. It is important to build a relationship with this advisor and get guidance from them every semester. Finally, I just want to wish all of you a lot of luck and hope that you do reach your goals of attending graduate school. Thank you. Shannon?
Thank you, Agrona. It's always nice to hear sort of the positive part of the whole process. It seems so like a lot of work, frankly, when you're even beginning to consider graduate or professional school. So I hope that all of you have learned as much as I have in today's webinar about the whole process and sort of the important steps to take and advice from my many colleagues that have joined us today. So this concludes our presentation. We are going to move into answering some questions. We haven't heard from too many of you, so you do still have a little bit of time to send them in to us. So please feel free to do so. I did get one very quick question pertaining to Kelsey Richardson's part of our presentation, and I can go ahead and answer this one quickly. The question was, is there an average number of recommendations that are needed for your graduate school applications? And it probably varies a little bit from school to school and program to program, but we think typically 3 would be requested as part of your application. And I think depending on what the program type is and they may list specifically who the recommenders should be, whether it's former instructors and professors, whether it's employers, classmates, or colleagues, or a combination of those. Generally, the applications are going to give you as specific information as they would need from you to sort of allow you to have the opportunity to complete the application and all the requirements of it as best you can. Another question, and I believe I should have reminded everyone of this at the beginning, that we will be sending out a handout to all of you after today's webinar, which will contain some of the links that we've referred to in our presentation, the timeline that Jayanne discussed briefly, as well as the various documents that would be needed. We'll send you sort of a packet of that information, including examples of those documents, after today's webinar. Also included in the email that you'll receive will be a link to a quick survey. We would love for you to just take a couple of minutes to fill out the survey and let us know what you thought of today's webinar. It's very useful to us in planning future programs to learn what you've thought of the ones that we've already presented. We will also send you a link to the slides that we've gone over with you as well, so that you can refer back to those when you're starting to think about graduate school and professional school. Another question that's come through is some individuals are asking some questions about how to get information about the various graduate programs offered here at CUNY School of Professional Studies. I would encourage you to look closely at those programs. You can find out lots of information on our website, sps.cuny.edu. We have a number of graduate programs available through SPS, so I urge you to look at those and contact us if there's some interest that you have in those. I've also put on the screen the contact information for all of the individuals who you've heard from on today's webinar. Myself and Kelsey Richardson, we make up the Career Services team at SPS. Christopher Leiden and Anthony Sweeney, who's been helping us today as well. They make up our Student Services team. And then finally, Jayanne, Ashley, and Agrona are members of our Academic Advisement team. So we encourage you to contact us if you have further questions or want to just talk sort of individually with us about your aspirations for graduate or professional school. We would love to be able to help. Okay, as I suspected, we've got some questions that have started to roll in. Bear with me just a moment, folks. I'm going to read through them all and see if I can figure out a good, quick, easy way to answer these for you. Okay. Okay, we've got a couple of questions I would say that probably two of these Ashley maybe could answer, and hopefully with the help of our colleagues here in the room, we'll be able to address them at least to a point. If there are some questions that we don't have the specific expertise to answer, we urge you to contact us so that we can sort of try to figure out those answers together.
Okay, so the first question is, can I start applying before I complete my BA? Actually, Jayan's timeline that she's going to provide you after this presentation, that's going to give you, an idea of when to actually start applying. But the answer is yes, you can start applying while you're completing your bachelor's.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a question about a specific master's program here at SPS regarding scholarships. Your best bet is to actually contact that program of study and see if they do offer scholarships to new students or to continuing students. Okay, we have a specific financial aid question, and for students that may not reside in the state, you should definitely contact the Office of Financial Aid here at SPS if you're specifically interested in one of our online programs at the graduate level, or if not, the financial aid office at the school that you wish to apply to.
Thank you, Ashley. And that applies for students who are living outside of the state. Again, a lot of the financial aid types of questions you would need to really address directly with the financial aid office at the school to which you're applying, because many schools are going to have different options and packages available for you, and you just sort of have to figure out what they have available and what would work best for you. All right, if there are any more questions coming in, feel free to send those. We've got a few more minutes left. Something else that I think comes up from time to time is, deciding on which graduate programs, whether to go part-time or full-time, and I know my colleagues talked a little bit about this, but if you're really trying to as I said, we're going to be providing a list of resources, and another resource that can be useful for research on different types of industries or fields and how a master's or PhD program and degree might benefit your career prospects. There's a resource called Vault, and you'll be receiving information about Vault as well on that handout, and that's something else that in career services we hope that you'll take a look at if you're starting to consider graduate and professional school. I think that's about all the questions that we've received for today, and we thank you sincerely for joining us today for our webinar. We hope that it's been a worthwhile presentation for you and that you've learned a little bit about some of the things that you should consider if you're thinking about graduate or professional school. And again, we urge you to contact any of us. If we can't help you, we can certainly find someone who should be able to. We wish you the best of luck with the current semester, and should you decide to pursue graduate or professional school, we wish you the best of luck with that. And with that, have a great day, everybody.
Bye. Bye.